Hello, my name is Caitlin. Welcome to my channel. If you don't know me, I am a Midwest artist who loves to read. In this month's video, I'm going to be talking about my favorite books. So with these, I'm not doing like 5-star reads because sometimes a favorite book is not a perfect book. It's kind of like two different things in my mind. So yeah, I'm gonna share like 5 of my favorite books. These are the first ones I just picked out today. I'm also doing this kind of off the cuff, so when I explain the books, it might be a little messy. We'll see. But anyway, here's the video. All right, so the first book I'm gonna share today is I would consider a classic, even though it might not be the quote-unquote classic book, but it is House of Leaves by Danielewski. So with this book, it is a very unique concepted horror book. First of all, look how massive it is. It is so big. And the way it makes it really unique is that this is a perfect page for it. Let me show you the formatting here. Is that it just plays with the formatting, and there's like so many different layers to this book, even though from the synopsis of it, it's such a simple synopsis, but there is so much going on with this book. The synopsis is, it's essentially a haunted house story. But basically, this family moves into this house, and the main guy is a photographer, like award-winning photographer who goes and travels all over the world. He tries to settle down in his, this new family home, and soon the family discovers that the house is bigger on the inside, and it starts really small. Like they find like this room is not a part of the floor plan, like the kitchen is now like 2 feet longer than it originally was when they first moved in, and then it just gets crazier and crazier, especially when the photojournalist decides to venture in this like essentially a closet that appears, that keeps going down and down in what seems like an infinite amount of stairs. He eventually, with his team, he eventually finds a labyrinth, and I'll just end it right there. The characters are really intriguing. They're not necessarily good people, but you still root for them so much. And there's like multiple points of view with this book. So there's the family, and there's the photojournalist, and like his opinions. He's making like a video, like a movie project about this, and essentially this movie is there was like a big like cinema showing of it, but only like certain people saw it, and then it became kind of like lost to time. And later on, another point of view, there's this one older man that gets obsessed with this movie, with the analysis, with the lore of everything. He writes down everything into essentially this book. He dies, and it's been left behind to this third character, who's this young guy who's trying to figure out everything in his own life, and how his relationships with women and his mother, how that kind of like evolves and devolves as he now becomes obsessed with the older guy's writings of his analysis of the movie, which is sometimes told in point of view of the photojournalist who goes and explores this labyrinth. So you see, it's not just a simple haunted house story. It is incredibly layered. This is like one of the first books that I truly got scared while reading it. I don't normally do that. Like usually with like horror books, I'm just like, well, it's a book, it's text on a page. I don't get scared with it. With this one, I was just like, ooh, okay, I'm just gonna look around the room a little bit, because maybe this little creature is gonna come into my room now, right? And like, props to that. To have a like piece of media like scare me truly, perfect. But anyway, here's to the next book. All right, guys, if you know me at all, you should know what book I'm gonna pull up next. It is it's been my favorite like graphic novel series, like ever since I was like maybe a middle schooler. I've loved this series so much. I've bought so many different editions of it. I'm slowly getting through or buying through the final series edition that I want to get from this series, because man, they keep making so many different freaking editions, and I'm just like, no, I'm not gonna do that. But yeah, anyway, it's Scott Pilgrim. You know it's Scott Pilgrim, yeah. I absolutely love Scott Pilgrim. I love the art style. As you know, I do enjoy like a really good like cartoony art style. It's nice that like this is like manga inspired. I really love the dialogue of it, and I think at like first glance it's like portrayed as this like really like straightforward story of basically Scott Pilgrim. He wants to date this girl Ramona Flowers, but in order to date her, he has to defeat her 7 evil exes, and like that's usually what's presented from this story. But like what gets me is that like people don't understand that like Scott isn't really a good person, Ramona isn't a good person, but that's like the point. The point of the series is to show that the main characters of the story, Scott and Ramona, how they kind of ruined their own relationships with other people, and how with them being together, they're gonna learn how to become better partners and become have better relationships with people through like trust and understanding, and that takes a long time to make. It really came to like a fruition with like the very last book when they separated, and then they both go on their own little journeys and stuff like that. But again, they weren't good partners. They weren't good partners with their previous people in their relationships. Like literally Ramona has 7 exes and they're all evil apparently. But then you get to know like why they broke up and like what the reasons why they're doing things, and you really get to sympathize because they are truly like real in that sense, of they made faults, the other partner made faults, and then this is how their relationship crumbled from there. And so I love Scott Pilgrim. It's like, it's such a funny series too. Like the dialogue is so great. All the characters like they each have their own like lives, their own like points of view, their own they add their own elements to the story, which is fantastic. You guys know I love Scott Pilgrim. And then if you haven't watched the new TV series that they did, it's awesome because it's about Ramona's point of view. I made an art piece based off of like Ramona's perspective from the entire series, and how like she's learning to cope with like her past relationships and stuff like that. And the TV series goes into that. It's basically the Ramona Flowers show and not the Scott Pilgrim show, which I was so shook after watching the first episode. I was just like, oh, whoa, that's insane. They're just completely going a different route here. It's not like a true adaptation. I'm just like, yes, let's do it. Let's do it. Okay. So we're gonna talk about the next book here. All right, here it is. One of the last like 5-star reads I had last year was Chlorine by Jade. This is like, if you want to like make a book that was like perfectly made for me, it's gonna be Chlorine. It is another horror novel. I'll go into this with another book later, but I love like deconstructing horror and how elements are made to like in the story, from like the plot, from the characters to the writing style, like how all those elements combined can make a piece of media that's meant to terrify, upset you, and it's just words on a page. And that is so interesting to me, to have a piece of media convey that much emotion to you. So Chlorine, going back to like why this is the perfect book for me. In general, this book is about a high schooler who is on a swim team. She's like about to graduate, things like that. She has all these pressures going on, and after a few events, she eventually comes to realize that she will love to live her life as a mermaid. And this is not the like pretty, happy, bubbly mermaid tale. She wants to become a mermaid, and she is gonna do it any way that she can. She wants to stay in the water all the time. She wants to basically make herself a tail out of her legs. And yeah, it gets very gross from there. And another way this is right up my alley is that it's also a queer love story, kinda. I was so shook when like halfway through the book it changed to a different point of view of the like other the love interest in this book, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I get to see an outside perspective. This is crazy. But yeah, so it's about the story is also about, it's a coming age. It's about like two girls in high school who are trying to come to terms with themselves, realize who they love, what they want to be. And the main character, she has this friend who is also on the swim team, but she's not as good. And this friend is very much obsessed with the main character. In a way that's like kind of borderline, like cute, but also like a little scary sometimes. And it's very much a question of like throughout the book, like does the main character kind of enable her friend to like have these feelings and stuff like that, but it resolves in the end in a very interesting way, in a very nice way. So I'm just like, okay, yes, this is great. This is great. In the 5-star read, I talked about like gross girl humor and like gross girl experiences. You're gonna get a lot of that in this book too. It went to the depths of places I never expected I would ever read from a novel ever, and it made me like disgusted. It made me be like, oh, whoa. And this is a book I think about a lot, and I feel like you all should read it too. Now we're going back to like a very more of an early love, early favorite of mine. I absolutely love graphic novels. That's usually like my main go-to. But yeah, so this is I discovered this book in high school, and I fell in love with this artist and everything that she does. The book in question is Laura Dean Keeps Breaking Up With Me. It's written by Mariko Tamaki. Artist, my love and joy, is Rosemary Valero-O'Connell, and her art is insane. It's so like she does these incredible like panel layouts. The art is quite nice. I love her use of like grays and like spots of color. She has like a very like flowy but still well constructed like line art that she does. Like look at that. And she does a lot of symbology with her images, and like using negative space to convey like loneliness, like apathy in a way. Another reason why I love this book, it goes back to like why I love Scott Pilgrim. I love character dynamics. I love character focused media, and this Laura Dean, it focuses on the main character's relationship with Laura Dean, who, as the title says, keeps breaking up with me. And the main character goes through this breakup with Laura Dean again. But like there's kind of like this understanding of like, oh, I guess we'll get back together again in the future. I don't know. It always feels kind of like gross when we're away, and then also when we're together. So the main character kind of throughout this book realizes that she's not in the healthiest relationship with Laura Dean. And Laura Dean has her own problems that she needs to get resolved away from the main character. But they're like part of this like cyclical act of being in a relationship, of being not in a relationship, and the main character is just feeling lost with who she is personally and who she is when she's in a relationship with Laura Dean. And when she's in a relationship with Chlorine, she kind of loses herself, and she loses some touch with her friendships that she makes. You know, I feel like with like love stories, the main focus often is about falling in love, being in love. And when there's a breakup story, it's usually not with the aim of personal betterment at the very end. In media, I feel like it's usually with the end goal of, oh, they find a new person to fall in love with. The aim of this book is personal betterment and finding new friends, deepening relationships with current friendships, and just becoming a better person. And I think that's a really refreshing take on the breakup storyline. All right, last book. Here we go. All right, the last book I have here, I'm gonna bet $5 that you've never heard of this book. I didn't hear about this book until one of my classmates in college. It was one of our printmaking classes, and I was starting to get really deep into the world of horror, and my main thesis, and still now, is the way women are presented in media. And she recommended that I read this book called House of Psychotic Women by Kier-La Janisse. And at first glance, it's a deep dive on neurotic women in horror movies, how they're portrayed, what makes them neurotic, and how the people perceive their neuroses into it. But then there's also a huge aspect of this book where it's an autobiography. So it's about Kier-La Janisse's life and how her personal story, if I remember correctly, was also used as a base for a horror movie. Like, there's so much to learn from like media and like your own personal stuff, like when you read analysis like this, when you watch movies like this. And I get the feeling that like horror really helped this author in reflecting on her own life. It's like with The House of Leaves, there's so many layers to this, and it's different because it's real life layers. Right, and that's the very last book for my favorites. I hope you guys enjoyed, but yeah, here are my favorite books. A lot of these books deal with character development, intricacies of relationships, and are in fun formats. Those are usually books that I would perceive as my favorite books. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed me babbling about all the different books that I enjoy. If you like this, why don't you subscribe? Your subscription helps me. I appreciate it. If you want early videos, go to my Patreon. Thank you for watching. Bye.